Hi, this is Alan Smith coming to you from sunny Southwest Florida. Hope everything's been going great with you folks up there. I understand it's getting a little bit cold up north, so we look forward to seeing you when you get down here on vacation or however we can help you find your next home here in paradise. Today's video is on buyer's agency and why all smart buyers will use a buyer's agent. This is especially important to the folks over there in the UK or Canada, specifically the UK, because in UK they really don't have buyer's agency and everybody goes directly to the listing agent, and that would kind of be like hiring an attorney or going to court and using the other party's attorney to represent yourself. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But let me explain some myths and answer some questions that I often get about buyer's agency and how buyer's agency works. So hopefully by the end of this short video, you'll have a firm understanding of the advantages of hiring your own buyer's agent and what it really takes to do that, as well as the misunderstandings. Is a lot of people think that their agent is working directly for them, but most likely they are not. So let's get started. The first question I often get is, why do I need a buyer's agent? Well, first of all, buying a home is probably the most important purchase you'll ever make. You have to ask yourself, do you want to go at it alone? Until just a few years ago, home buyers had very little choice. They decided upon a home to buy and negotiated the contract without any representation at all. Traditionally, all real estate agents represent the home seller. This is important. That was true of the listing agent who put the home up for sale, as well as the agent who found the buyer. That agent who helped the buyer find the right home actually works for the seller. Under that traditional system, all agents were legally bound to represent the seller, and the buyer had no representation. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever gone and looked at a home and had the agent show up to show you a home that maybe you called off a sign and they had you sign a piece of paper before you went into the home that said you're not being represented by that person? Probably not, but you know that Florida law says that before any agent can show you a home, they have to have you sign a piece of paper that says that there is no representation from that agent. So unless you have signed a buyer brokerage agreement with an agent, that agent is not working for you. That's myth number one. That's a big revelation, I know, for most of you folks. But now buyers have a choice. Buyers no longer need to represent themselves during the home search and purchase, while all agents represent the seller. Smart home buyers like yourself today can receive undivided confidential representation by choosing a buyer's agent. We specialize in buyer's agency. We have a division that specializes in sellers. However, for the purpose of this video, my wife Carol works specifically with buyers as the leading buyer's agent here in Southwest Florida, and she would love to work exclusively for you as well. So at last, you don't have to buy a home alone. Now you, like the seller, can have someone on your side looking out for your best representation. So it's like having your own attorney in a case. They have the seller's attorney, you have the buyer's attorney. This way you have your own agency, your own representation. So while that's great, the next question that always comes up is, how can a buyer's agent help me? Well, there's many ways. A buyer's agent usually owes certain duties to their home buyer, such as care, confidentiality, full disclosure, and accurately accounting of all funds. These responsibilities are defined by state laws, the Realtor's Code of Ethics, our general principles and agency, and the court decisions. That's the legal definition. But where does a buyer's agent actually do for the home buyer? Well, like other agents, a buyer's agent will show the buyer available homes, point out the property features, provide financing information, and submit the offer to purchase, negotiate the purchase, and walk it all through closing. But that's not all. As your personal exclusive representation, a buyer's agent will share valuable and essential information with you if the agent knows it, such as, many things, like whether the seller would accept a lower price, the seller's reason for selling, and their timetable, how long the home has been on the market, strengths and weaknesses of the property, strengths and weaknesses of the location, things about the marketing they may know. Is there a shopping center plan to go across the street? Has anybody ever died in the property? Have there been problems with the property? Are there future utilities coming in? There's all kinds of things that come up that you're not going to find the information from an agent that is supposed to be looking after the best interest of the seller. This is one of the main reasons why you want somebody looking out for your best interest. But most importantly, for many buyers, you can ask a buyer's agent for advice and assistance in setting your offering price and structuring the other terms of the offer because they're looking out for your best interest. What's more, you'll have peace of mind knowing that an advocate is working on your behalf to help you buy the best possible terms. A buyer's agent's goal is to help you buy a home you want and buy it at the right price, which obviously I think is probably one of the most important things. So you ask, who needs a buyer's agent? Well, you do. If you want to make sure you buy smart, you need a buyer's agent. If you're a first-time buyer, if you're relocating or unfamiliar with the local real estate market, or if you're buying for investments and want negotiating help, or if you need to purchase anonymously, you'll be best served by a buyer's agent who puts your interests first. Also, if the real estate professional like us is helping you find a home, is a relative, a close friend, or a business associate, you previously were the agent's home selling client, chances are you'd expect the agent to represent your interests should establish a buyer's agency representation. In other words, if that agent that you had sell your home is also going to represent you to buy it, you need to establish a buyer's agency relationship. Or if you just want to get the best value in a property and an agent, you owe it to yourself to be the most knowledgeable buyer a buyer can be. So you ask, what can a seller do to help me buy now? Well, without a buyer's agent, you're really on your own. Keep in mind, the seller's agent is actually working for the seller and is the seller's legal representation. Yes, a seller's agent can offer buyers some services, including a diligent search to find the right home, an explanation of available financing, calculating the monthly payments, estimation of settlement costs, and maybe even presenting the offer to the seller. But what you really got to ask is whether or not that negotiation and presentation is in your best interest or the seller's best interest, and I think you know the answer to that. What a seller's agent cannot do is disclose information not in the best interest of the seller, such as the opinion of the home's real value or what price and terms the seller would accept, or if there's anything that may negatively affect the value coming down the road. By law, the seller's agent must negotiate on the behalf of the seller and may not withhold from the seller information that could strengthen their bargaining position. That means you as a buyer should be careful not to disclose to the seller's agent any financial or personal information that can be used against you. Or, in the case of a buyer's agent, I can use those things to help negotiate, in your interest. So you ask, what will a buyer's agent cost me? Well, nothing really. Perhaps the right question is, what will it cost me if you don't use a buyer's agent? Purchasing a home without a representation is possibly the biggest financial mistake you can make, and that I often see a lot of people make. A buyer's agent can guide you through each step of the way to prevent you costly errors. Failure to find out about defects in the property or the actual value of the property can, of course, be an expensive mistake. And failure to negotiate a contract that works for you and receiving advice and assistance in selecting the best property and determining the best offering price could, and usually does, cost buyers thousands of dollars. And obviously everybody wants to know, well, who pays the buyer's agent's fee? And that's a great question, but that all depends. Surveys show that in most instances, buyer's agents are paid just like seller's agents. That is, buyer's agents generally receive a share of the sales commission, which is built into the listing price. Many listing agreements between the home seller and seller's agent indicate whether the sales commission will be split between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. That's because most sellers are prepared to pay a commission simply to get their home sold. That's how it is here in Southwest Florida. Somebody will list their home, and that listing agent then puts into the MLS what they're offering to pay somebody like ourselves to bring you to their listing. So essentially the seller is paying our fee. That's how we work for you. So there's no additional dollars out of your pocket to hire us. They aren't concerned whether or not a seller's agent or buyer's agent that shares that commission. So, when you think about it, there are other ways that buyer's agents may be paid. Some, where the buyer can pay them directly, reduce the cost of the homes, or a combination thereof. But be sure you understand from the start, before you commit to any relationship with a buyer's agent, how the buyer's agent is going to be paid. Remember, the question you really need to ask yourself is, can I afford to buy a home without a buyer's agent? And for 99% of the buyers, the answer is absolutely not. When you hire us, we get paid directly from the seller as part of the proceeds of the sale that the seller is willing to pay. So there's absolutely no additional charge for you to hire us and have your own representation and have your own fighting team in your corner. So give us a call today and we'll make sure that we get you set up as one of our exclusive buyers clients. Now, often the question comes up, what's an in-company situation? An in-company situation is when sometimes a home buyer wants to purchase a property that's also listed by the same agent in an office. And obviously, you can't represent both the seller and the buyer at the same time. That's kind of like an attorney representing both sides. So, this results in some different relationships that goes by different names depending on the state you're in. For instance, names like designated representative or transaction broker or facilitator or disclosed dual agent. In the state of Florida, it's called a transaction broker. So in other words, if you buy one of my listings, a home that I'm representing the seller, at that point in time, I would notify you that I'm transferring from your particular exclusive agent to what's called a transaction broker, which means that I'm not going to tell the seller anything about you, and I'm not going to tell you anything about the seller. I'm going to kind of be a in-middle mediator and just negotiate the transaction and put the deal together in both of your best interest. So I hope that clears that up. If an in-company situation occurs, it must be properly disclosed to both the buyer and the seller, who then give written informed consent to modify their agency agreement. That's why I tell you at that time that we have to change our exclusive buyer's agreement and just inform you that this is going to be a transactional brokerage situation. In some states, an in-company situation can exist where different sales associates of the same brokerage firm each fully represent exclusively the interests of their own client. And that's not usually something we do, but it can be done. So you need to be sure that you ask your buyer's agent how they handle in-house listings. How we handle them is we transfer to transaction brokers. We do it all the time. We've never had an issue with it, and it works really slick for you. The bottom line is, either way, you want to have an agent to fully represent you and your best interest if you want help to evaluating the best deal on a piece of property. If you want someone to negotiate to get you the best price and the best terms, if you want to purchase a home in what's becoming the most popular way to buy, you'll want to enlist the aid of a buyer's agent. Just so you understand, I'm going to go over a few terms with you real quick. Agency relationship. That's the agreement between an agent and a client in which the agent acts in the client's best interest in a real estate transaction. This is also called a brokerage relationship. A buyer's agent acts exclusively on the buyer's behalf, also called a buyer's broker. A listing agent, obviously, is the person acting on behalf of the seller. The agent who lists the home for sale also could be called the seller's agent. The listing broker is the company and all the agents who work in that company that lists homes and represent sellers. So in other words, if you go to purchase a home, say listed by Century 21 ABC, every agent who belongs to that Century 21 represents a seller, not just the agent that has that listed. A lot of people confuse that. They think that the listing agent is just the agent has it listed, and that's not true. A person who's called a client, obviously, is the buyer represented by a buyer's agent, or the seller operating as the seller, also called the principal. An in-company situation, again, occurs when one brokerage company represents both the buyer and the seller. That's not the same agent. It's one brokerage company. Remember, all listings belong to the brokerage company, not the individual agent. So while the laws of agency vary from state to state and are continually evolving, this information should bring you up to date with the current practices here in the state of Florida. If you have additional questions on how we represent you directly, please give us a call, 239-872-7736, and talk to Carol and ask her exactly how she works in your best interest, what she's going to do to get you the best deal, negotiate the best deal. Or give me a call at 239-989-1106, and I'd be happy to set you up in any of our search systems, explain to you exactly how buyer's agency benefits you, especially at no cost. Why would you not want something to benefit you when there's absolutely no cost to it? So I hope that answers some questions for you today on buyer's agency, and I look forward to hearing from you on your questions. You have a great day, and I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow or in person. Bye-bye now.